Okay, so I've done a little bit of work, made a few changes. I actually decided I like the negative space in here, so I built a wall on the inside. You can see there for the body, and it connects up to these legs. So that means I will be making a shrink tile for it. And I've had these legs go out a little bit. This I'm starting to narrow these, but I'm gonna leave them a little thick for now because they need that for the stability. So I can whittle these down later, but for now I wanna have a little bit more chunkiness and thickness to them. And then if I decide to later make this all one piece, I can. If I decide that, that's a structural issue that I need, then I will do that. I'm actually looking at the way that this rabbit is standing, and I think that its two front legs are gonna kind of flare out at the elbow a little bit. You see what I mean? Like, so I think there's gonna be more space here. I started to define where the foot is over here and define the paws a little more. So one thing in making the paws is I'm also thinking about the skeletal structure. And so if I look at here, his paws are kind of like, you know, like this. So you can see like where is the highest point and where is the lowest point and where are there straight lines and where are there curved lines. So I can't see his paws that well there, but I get the sense that the highest point is here, and then it comes down kind of a straight line as the toes come down. So I'm trying to more block this out with straight lines than curved lines right now. If I want to curve it later, I can, but it's good to just kind of block things out first. You know, you can get the general sense of where things are, and you can see that I put in the, like on the shin bone, that prominent bone in front. I also started to do a little more defining on the leg back here, and I can build up another layer right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I do most of my, or a lot of it with just my wood tool, and depending on how detailed I want it to be. And so the chest actually puffs out in front of these little legs. So I'll start doing that, and the back is going to start kind of drastically curving in right now. Okay. So I have to be careful not to put too much weight on these front legs as I'm building out the chest of the hare. And it seems like it got a little bit dry right there. Probably wouldn't have hurt to add water, but this clay is damp enough that I can get away with not adding water and just blending it well. Famous last words, right? I can see a hole in there. I want to fill that while it's easier to get to. I can add another layer. It's not bending too much there. The elbow of the hare, this is another reason why I think they split from the front, is because the elbow pokes out on the side here. So it's nice to have where the joints are. That's really helpful for you as the artist, and also for the viewer to understand. You know, they just have like these big landmarks you can understand, then that's good. And I am going to leave this piece a little more on the gestural side. Not quite as gestural as this, but this was actually really simple to make. It was just like a cylinder that I coiled up. I'll make this one a little bit more detailed. I kind of want to look at the general proportions. It seems to me that according to, so sometimes you might notice kind of big problems. So if I look at like how long these legs are and compare the length from elbow to foot to, like, say the length from here to here, it looks to me like this should be as long as the body is from there. So if I look at this, I go, well, this leg is about this long. If I compare that to the body, then do I have it correct? Close, but not quite. So I am gonna actually add a little more clay in here and make the rabbit a little bit longer. This is the nice thing about clay, is it's really, you know, it allows you to go in and rework what you do. So that's, to me, looking a little better in terms of proportion of where the back should end. And it doesn't go in at such a dramatic angle as I had it either. So sometimes it takes a little while to figure out, you know, where everything should go. And that's because as you're building up, you're creating more references each time you add another layer. And so it can be hard to tell where things are, if they're the right size, because it's all in relation to each other. So here, I'm just blending it in, and you can see that my clay is a lot more leather hard, it's sturdier. Okay, so that's looking more in relationship to what we have there. It's good to look at it from different angles too, so this is actually kind of helpful. Okay, now I'm getting the curve that I like, and I have to keep in mind that these are going to be made thinner as I go, so I'm just working that out. So I'm going to actually smooth this texture in so I can see the form without being distracted by the texture a little bit. Okay, it's looking much more lifelike. How about on this side? This is the undone side. Okay, so I am going to look from above to see where because I want some symmetry here to make sure that I get this foot in the right place. Okay, and that it makes sense with the other side. Because if I'm just working on one side at a time, it can be hard to get the symmetry that I want. Okay, so that looks good in comparison with the other. And I find the feet of the rabbit really fascinating, and I think it's a really important part of the rabbit's character, because there's like the thumper character, and it's just so much a part of like the ability to hop and move quickly and things like that it can be embodied in the feet. So I really do want to spend a little time on the feet and think about, like, okay, the middle toes go out farther than the end toes, and they all kind of slump up like the roof of a house together, and they go back and in, and then there's a nice little curve underneath, kind of just like our feet but longer, and then the ankle is going to be back here, so I might put some definition there. And I like to at least draw in some definition here so I can see where I am of where the leg is. So we've got that kind of definition there. So I'm going to get a little more definition on this side, and it's nice that you can work from the inside to push out and get that definition. This is going to have to come in more. So that might mean there is, like, he has the soft furry belly that hangs down, and that's going to be kind of a different texture than, say, the body with the short hair. Although I'm not sure, I haven't quite decided how textured I want to make this, but there you can see how you can get a little bit more definition of the leg, and where you want to keep in mind where the legs fit into the hip joint too, because it affects the way that the fur falls and the way that the skin drapes over the bones. Okay, so I think I can add actually another layer. I can't wait to put the tail on. That's going to be really cute. Sometimes I like to just do little visual cues for myself so I can remember later what that'll be at the little cottontail, which hares have, and bunnies. are some really cute rabbits online, I have to say. Okay, let's add another layer. So I'm thinking too of the chest and how it sticks out. That's actually the upper leg that hooks into the shoulder girdle up there. These animals they've got really long legs compared to their spine. At least when they're, yeah, they do. Looking at them like that. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Now you can see that, again, there's some straight lines that I need to work with and some diagonals. So, but first thing I need to do is actually blend this in, which the clay is getting drier, so it's not as easy as it was. So I'm just gonna kind of cross hatch with my thumb before using my tool, because my tool at this point would just scratch the surface and not really get in deep enough. I need to actually move the clay around with my thumb, so I am applying some pressure in order to remove that line, and I'm also cross hatching so that I'm going in a few different directions so that this coil doesn't come off later. I don't add water unless I absolutely need to, just because it just contributes to the slumping and the weight of the top of it. It's just fine to make the bottom a little thicker than you make the top. That can aid your stability. And you know, if it ends up being too thick, you can always go in with your ribbon tool or your loop tool and hollow it out later. So I've blended the line on the inside and the outside, and as you go you can look and see if you like the textures that you're making or if they're interesting for you. I'm going to also just check this angle of the way that so you can see the skeleton of the hare here, where the bone of the upper arm fits into the shoulder girdle right up here. So I know that that's going to be kind of a lump, and then the skin is going to drape down softly off of the shoulder here. But I want to check that angle. So that angle's about like this. So here I can see that I need a little bit more of an angle there. This should come out farther. And it comes out kind of quickly in my view. And I want to make sure that the elbows that I made actually loop into they connect with the upper arm. So the elbows are going to go out and then in like this. So he's got this kind of a thing going on, right? And so if we get these kind of structural things in place, even if your piece is kind of silly or abstract or something like that, having the underlying bones in the right place really does a lot for the piece and for the viewer in terms of being able to understand. That looks pretty good. It's hard to tell without the head, right? I think I can get a little more weight on the back, but I have to let this stiffen up before I can do much to it. And I'll go over it with my serrated rib to smooth it out before I let it set up. One thing I can do now though is I can actually work on some more details of the feet and of the, I can start sculpting some parts of the head, and I do that separately. I'm going to not put too much more weight up there on the front right now, but I am going to continue to build in the back. And at this point, the back, see how it's going the wrong direction? I want it to start going in, so I really can't go too much farther with it because it will cause it to collapse at this strong of an angle. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and smooth it in with my serrated rib. And with my serrated rib, I go in a couple different directions, just making sure that the coils are attached. And right now I'm not necessarily shaping, I'm just smoothing and ensuring that the clay is fused together, not necessarily shaping. Okay. Kind of shaping, but just trying to get the general form in there so that I can see the lines of what I'm doing. Is that collapsing a little bit? Looks like it to me. So I might end up having to, sometimes you can stuff newspaper under here, or you can just stuff little wads of clay under. See how it's starting to slump? I can just, if I need to, I can prop it so that it doesn't collapse. You can prop clay under there. So I'm gonna do that. I'll remove this later. I'm not scoring it into place. Even if I did, I could cut it away. But this is just helping it to stay until it stiffens up and it can hold its own weight. That's in there to help with the support. So you can build these little kind of support beams with clay, or if you use newspaper, don't use anything really stiff that can't flex, because your clay shrinks as it dries and it can crack and be hard to get off of there. So you only want to use clay or watered up paper, or you can use foam. So I don't quite have the curve the way that I want the back. Why not? Okay, so I'm going to try to paddle this into the shape that I want. I think I might actually need to just round this a little more. Yeah, it needs to be more rounded. This hair is very lean, so I'm gonna make mine a little more chubby. The paddle is great. If you don't have a paddle, you can use a wooden spoon. Or a paint stick. That can work really well. Okay. So you can see that the structure of the clay is actually pretty soft. And one thing is it might be close to the curve that I want, but it's hard to tell because I don't have anything to compare. Like, I don't have this line on here to be able to tell, and I don't have the head, so it can be hard to tell. So I might have to rework that later. Before I go in and do much sculpting, I am gonna just let this stiffen up. These, I end up actually spending a fair amount of time kind of, you know, just looking at the shape and reworking it. You can do them, I mean, I could make this really fast and really kind of gestural. I think it could be fun to see how quickly you could make it, just to see if it has a more kind of gestural quality too. So it's starting to look more rabbit-like. So I'm gonna wake up, computer. And I'll look at the shape of the head. So the head is, it's very long, and it has a very slender nose, and it's actually, it's not that small. So I'm gonna make a pinch pot for the head, and I'm thinking of the nose first. I'm not gonna pinch pot the back of the head. I'm just gonna pinch pot the nose and the kind of just past the eyes. And I'm trying to do it in the shape of the, sorry, am I blinding you all? Trying to do it in the shape of the rabbit. Okay, so here, that's gonna go, he doesn't have his neck yet, and he kind of has his head tilted back at a little bit of an angle there. But once he gets his neck, I think this looks about the right size. I would say that his head is as long as his arm. I'm calling it he, but I really don't know the gender of this here rabbit. Yeah, it looks about the same. So that's one thing you can do, and it has extremely long ears. So that is going to be kind of a trick to get those ears standing up. And I might, like you can see, like what I did with these ears here. I had it, I made them go back, so they rested on the back. And I do like the way that looks, but it was also a structural concern because having them just stick up is fragile, and they break and slump And these, I stuck the ears together and kind of made them go in a direction so that they at least have each other to hold them up, and it's not two little separate things. Okay, so where's my face? Okay, so yeah, let me see if this is the right size. So I think that's about the right size. It might get a little bigger or smaller as I work on it, so I have to make sure that while I'm sculpting it, I keep that in mind. So the rabbit has a narrow nose. I need a little light, sorry. So I'll just do that. The rabbit has kind of a narrow nose, so I'm going to make sure that I get that quality. And you can see that his head, where the bridge of the nose stops, is just before the eyes. And then the eyes are very big in comparison to, you know, the head. It has really large eyes. Not sure how well they see, but I think that they can see pretty well. It's nice to have different angles. So here I can see one from the front, which is really helpful because I can sculpt it from the top down. So the widest part of the face is going to be where the eyes are, and that's good to keep in mind. Where's the most narrow part and where's the widest part? And I don't necessarily, I'm going to probably put the details in when it's leather hard, but I can get some of it in now. When I think about that bottom jaw, it's starting to look more rabbit-like. So I don't think you could mistake it for a dog, especially if it once it gets its neck in it, like it's going to be kind of back this way a little bit. Although I think that the front is still a little bit too wide compared to the back, because it does have a different shape face than a dog, though. It can be really hard to tell, like the ears are the defining feature that will make it a rabbit. So that's one thing nice about if you sculpt a rabbit, it has very defining features. If you sculpted a dog, like if you wanted to do a sculpture of your dog or your cat, you look at what its defining features are, and that will really help it delineate it from other animals. So I'm getting the little nose in here, and I'm gonna just, oh, you guys can't see. Scoot this back a little bit so you can see. So, you can see that there's a slant downward from the nose. It goes down, the chin goes down. So they're kind of famous for the bunny teeth, right? So its upper jaw should be more, should stick out farther than its lower jaw. Some of this, the face, I can sculpt once it's on there. It'll be easier because I'll be able to see it in comparison with other things. So, let me get this. I want to put in some lines for the nose. I have a bunch of different sculpture tools that I like to use. This is one of my favorite tools. It's a bamboo tool, so it's pretty strong. And what I like about it is you can see that the end has a point and it's kind of rounded. So it's really good for eyes, and then it has this straight end. So this is one of my favorites. Blix, I think. Yeah, Blix has this a tool set that's pretty inexpensive for sculpture. It's if you really get into sculpture, you might want to get. These are a couple of the tools that I got in that set. It's like a set of like 10 tools. If you decide you're really into sculpture, and I like having these smaller ribbon tools, and also these tools that have this bending. These rubber tip tools are nice, and usually I'll use ribbon tools of different shapes. This is another one of my favorite tools, and it has kind of like a mini serrated edge to it, so it's really good. Oh dear, I misshaped my head. Okay, elbow on it. Now I can't tell where the eye sockets were. Okay, so I like to get kind of the major skeletal structure in there first, so I can at least tell where it is. And I think that was another reason I wanted to draw the nose on, is so I could start to tell where things are. The nose is pretty cute. It kind of turns down a little bit. So let me see if I can find a tool that's the right shape. This one's good. This is one of my favorite ones. So the bridge of the nose is usually a good defining feature on animals. I have to remember to look towards the screen. The bridge of the nose, as in humans and in animals, that's going to give you, like, see, that's the bridge right there. The bridge of the nose, just like in humans, it hits the forehead here, and then the forehead will come up from the bridge of the nose. And this is going to be, with a lot of different animals, you have that break where the bridge of the nose stops, and there's usually, that's where the skull kind of forms. And oftentimes, yeah, that will be, the nose will come out from there. On this rabbit, it looks like the top of the head, the front of the head is actually wider, which is the opposite of humans. So I want to get that in there. And then there's going to be a pronounced brow. So we have a brow over our eyes. This helps protect our eyes from the sun and from the harsh light. So I'm going to put that brow in there. So this tool, and I spend a lot of time on eyeballs because they're so important. So I'm gonna, eyes usually, they tilt up. So the outside edge will be higher than the inside edge. And so I'm gonna make sure that I do that. And I like to look from above when I do this, because that way I'm getting it more symmetrical with the other side. So here I can just use this tool, and it does a pretty good job at making an eye shape. Okay. And I just pressed it in, and then I'm gonna also press in the bottom jaw there. Most animals don't look like they're smiling. I saw the strangest thing at this natural history museum where they made all the taxidermied animals kind of smiling. It's really disturbing. So most animals, their mouths actually naturally slump down, not in the smiling position. Although you can make them smiling if you're adding that as a narrative element. If you're looking for kind of a more naturalistic, then it's not. They don't smile. So now I'm going to put the nose. So I'm going to actually look from above, put the nose on there so that I'm getting it symmetrical. And it just kind of comes down in a little triangle like that. And then there's a line that reaches down to the bottom there. Okay. So there's my rabbit face, and I'll work on smoothing it out. And I'm gonna there's a few things that you can do that really help. One is you can, to keep in mind that all eyeballs are round. And so one thing you can do to really increase the roundness of an eyeball is to just at each corner, tuck in a little, press it in just right at the corner, and see how much more dimension that gives that eyeball. So I'm gonna also put the tear duct in there. These are small little things that usually I do right at the end, but they make a big difference. So you can see the difference between that eye and that eye. Little things, right? So I can also go in along this top edge and make more of a brow bone. I have to smooth the eyeball out now. Okay, so that eye next to this eye. And those were just a few little marks, so I'll do that on this side as well. And that is tucking in right here and here, and tucking in on the two edges of the eye. Okay, so that's, yeah. And it's also good to do that at the corners of the mouth too. And you can look at where the hair has actually a pretty protective cheekbone. The cheekbone and the brow help protect the eye, so the eye usually sits down in there. This bunny has a big eye. I might make these eyes bigger. I'll do that later, and then that's gonna go in there. Okay, so another thing I can do right now, see if that's stiffening up a little bit. It actually is. Okay, so another thing I can do right now, I'm gonna let that stiffen up just a little bit more, is make the ears. So I'm gonna try to get 2 pieces of clay about the same size. And I'm just doing that by feel. And then I'm gonna kind of roll them out in the shape of the ear. So they're wider in the middle. Oh, it's the air compressor outside, sorry. So it's wider in the middle. Wait, I can close the window and that won't be loud as well. Sorry. Okay, so you end up with these kind of almond shapes. These ears are quite large, but it's got big ears. The hares have bigger ears than the bunnies. Okay, so it's somewhat kind of like a pea pod. I'm going to try to get them the same shape. So this becomes more fun because you can see, you know, this is where you can start to see an end or some personality in the animal. And I like kind of, you know, they really are able to turn their ears a lot, and a lot of times they have like a little bit of like something on the end where it's like our earlobes almost, where we also, our earlobes go in like that, but these are more muscular, but you can look for similarities. So there we go. That's kind of like a little more ear shape than a pea pod shape. So look for these little details, and those can make all the difference in your sculpture in terms of the charm of it or the convincingness of it. Well, I needed to make these opposite, so I'm going to have to turn this one this way. Okay. Yeah. That's going to be on that side. No, this one. This will be, there we go. This is how they're going to go. So, I'm going to set these aside for now and let them stiffen up. And take another look here at the back. I'm going to add to that. So I don't need a very long coil. And sometimes I leave a little bit of a hole in the back until the very end so that I can get in there. And if I need to press out to sculpt and things like that. Okay. Get that in with my serrated rib. I'm pushing my luck a little bit here. I'm going faster than I might if I weren't giving a demo. I'd probably spend more time on refining this. Okay, so let's see how head goes like this at a little bit of an angle like that. And build up a little bit here in the front as well. Okay, so I'm gonna start putting the neck on there. And the neck, so this part should come out a little farther, but I'm a little concerned about adding it right now, but maybe I'll just go ahead and do it. It might be something that I kind of add as a detail later, because I can, yeah. Okay. I just need to do it for visual cues anyway. So, there we go. There's the hair of the chest coming down. So I'm smoothing it in with my finger or with my thumb. First, going around the neck. Okay. I kind of like these finger marks. I sometimes go back and put them in later if I'm not able to leave them there, because sometimes I have to take them out while I'm building in order to see the form. And don't forget, you know, you're still going to glaze, and so you can also add a lot of form back in when you glaze. So he has like a little bit of a roll because he's scrunching his head back. You know, one thing to keep in mind about the rabbit is it's a skittish creature. It's an animal of prey, so it's always kind of wary, right? It's looking pretty rabbit-like. I think it goes back like that. Okay, so I'm gonna put this on here. I'm just gonna attach it at the angle that I want the chin. Kind of look at it, and then I want to see what the ears look like too. I like these ears. I can probably make them come together. I'm going to have to figure this out, right? Like, how am I going to get them on there? I'll probably have to weight them with some clay until they stiffen up on their own. So I will work on refining the face and refining this area before I add the back of the head. I need to also let this stiffen up a little bit. So I'll work on that, and then I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.